German.
No German here, I know.
She's here 25 years but doesn't speak German. I don't know. I don't know how this is possible, but
because they associate only with the same Indian people. And
yeah, but it's not good, But what can I do? She's so nice.
Yeah, sweet Mataji.
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana You know how to switch on? You know? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 10, Text 5. I will read the Sanskrit. Sansargiko dosha eva nunam ekasyapi sarvesham sansargikanam pavitum arhatiti nishchitya nishamya kripana vaju raja rahugana upasita vriddhopi nisargena balatkrita ishad utittamanyur avishpashta brahma tejasam jata vedasam Ivarajasa vrittamatir aha samsargikaha Sansargikaha, resulting from intimate association. Resulting from intimate association.
Sorry, once again.
Resulting from intimate association.
From intimate association.
Doshaha,
a
fault.
A thought.
Eva,
indeed.
Nunam, certainly. Ekasya, of one. Api, although. Sarvesham, of all other. Sansargikanam, persons associated with him. Bhavitum, to become. Arhati, is able. Iti, thus. Nishitya, ascertaining. Nishamya, by hearing. Kripanavajaha, the words of the poor servants. Who were very afraid of being punished. Raja, the king. Rahuganaha, Upasita Brittaha, having served and heard from many elderly sages. Api, in spite of. Nisargena, by his personal nature. Which was that of a kshatriya. Balat, by force. Kritaha, done. Ishat, slightly. Utita, awakened. Manyuhu, whose anger. Avispashta, not being distinctly visible. Brahma Tejasam, his Jadabharat's spiritual effulgence. Jata Vedasam, a fire called by ashes in Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. In Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Eva, like. Rajasa Avrita, covered by the mode of passion. Matihi, whose mind. Aha, said. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. King Raghugana could understand the speeches given by the carriers, who were afraid of being punished. He could also understand that simply due to the fault of one person, the palanquin was not being carried properly. Knowing this perfectly well and hearing their appeal, he became a little angry. Although he was very advanced in political science and was very experienced, his anger arose due to his inborn nature as a king. Actually, King Rahugana's mind was covered by the mode of passion, and he therefore spoke as follows to Jadabharat, whose Brahman effulgence was not clearly visible, being covered like a fire covered by ashes. Purport. The distinction between Rajagun and Sattvagun is explained in this verse. Although the king was very upright and advanced in political science and governmental management, he was nonetheless in the mode of passion, and therefore due to a slight agitation he became angry. Jadabharat, despite all kinds of injustice, endured because of his deaf and dumb display, remained silent by the strength of his spiritual advancement. Nonetheless, his Brahma Teja, his Brahman effulgence, was indistinctly visible in his person. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitantam Devam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanjana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanushute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhishya Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivastava Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So in this verse we hear about King Rahugana and Jadabharat, and we're hearing how Jadabharati became one of the carriers of King Rahugana, and we heard previously how because of his saintly character he was very concerned not to harm any living entity, and so by walking he didn't want to hurt even an ant. And how that became a problem for the palanquin, because if one is not stable, then like if sometimes you sit on a chair and one leg is not the same length, then it will be always a little bit unstable. So in a similar way, Rahugana, one of those maybe 4 carriers, I don't know how many, he was not stable, and that was felt by King Rahugana. And so he became disturbed. Sometimes when we go to India and we drive in a car and the road is not good. I remember going to the Ukrainian Bhakti Sangam many years ago, and the road to the Bhakti Sangam was wow. I mean, I was disturbed. Guru Nishta knows this road?
I've been there once also.
From Lviv, or how you say the city?
Sorry, this is town.
Lviv, or
Lviv, Lvov. They say Lvov, Lviv.
So from there we went by car 3 or 4 hours. So naturally we were disturbed. So King Rahugana also doesn't like that, so he's disturbed. And in this verse particularly, it speaks about the gunas. And it's giving like an interesting comparison between Rahugana and Bharat, Jadabharat. On one hand we have King Rahugana, who he's experiencing this, movements, and he feels disturbed. He cannot tolerate, he becomes angry. And on the other hand we have Jadabharat, who is tolerating so many things, and we heard, people treat him very bad, and he just gets he's like a slave, but he's just tolerating, he's not complaining, he doesn't even feel disturbed. And why is that? Because they are in different modes. But the modes, unfortunately, are not known outside of the Vedic culture. So, by not understanding the modes, one doesn't understand reality. And if one doesn't understand reality, then one doesn't know what's supposed to be endeavored for, what should we actually, why we are here for, how those things work, how to improve our life, how to be happy, how to live peacefully, harmoniously. We don't know all these things. If we don't know the gunas, we don't know. Of course, maybe we can say that even those who don't know directly these gunas, they can figure out that there is some good way to live and a bad way. But the gunas help tremendously in the whole. They are very crucial in the Vedic culture. And one very important point which we need to understand, growing up in the West. I mean, not really in the West. I grew up in the West, but you grew up in the.
But we're also influenced so much by the West. I mean, here,
yeah,
at least in Russia, yeah, we were
you
so
also have
much.
Russian, not Russian.
A little bit of Western mentality also, to some extent.
Because what is said in this verse is that he was very. Let me just see what is the. Upasita Brittaha, having served and heard from many elderly sages. And Prabhupada says he was very advanced in political science and was very experienced. So he was learned. He was a learned person. But the problem is that doesn't mean someone is in goodness. So we see in today's world so much time and energy spent to learn something, but rather than promoting the living entity to a higher state of existence in terms of the gunas, bringing him to Sattva gun, it's not that type of learning is not uplifting but degrading. So our educational institutions, the academia, how it is today, Srila Prabhupada also pointed it out already then, that nowadays the children sent to the colleges and for the purpose of learning, but what happens, they develop all kinds of bad habits. They have illicit sex, they take drugs, intoxication, and in this way, even though they might learn something intellectually, their character becomes degraded. Meaning they come into the modes of tamas and passion. And one can have, one can even go as high as a PhD and be in Tamo and Rajo. That's the crazy thing, that from a Vedic perspective, the person might not even be very qualified, but having some inclination to accumulate knowledge and having some memory, some capabilities, they get this title and position and they take the role as a leader in society, but their character is very questionable. Therefore, in the Vedic society, the division, there's a division that in order that every living entity is guided properly, those in Sattva gun, they are the topmost authority, the Brahmins. Now we hear about Rahugana is a Kshatriya, and he's in passion. So even though he's learned, he needs guidance from someone in goodness, because he cannot make proper decisions all the time. So then the Brahmin will guide him. Actually, Kshatriyas, he cannot tolerate here, but there is one story, I don't remember all the details, maybe in Ramayana, where there was one Gurukuli, a student in Gurukul, and there was a little bit the question of if he's a Brahmin or if he's a Kshatriya, sir? And I think he was sitting and because he didn't want to wake up his guru. He was somehow sitting and he didn't want, something was in his legs, some physical pain he had to tolerate in order that his guru doesn't get disturbed by him moving, something like this. And then when the guru woke up and saw what happened, he saw that he was injured. He asked what happened, and then the student explained, my memory is so bad, I'm definitely not a Brahmin. And then the guru immediately said, oh, you are a Kshatriya, it's impossible for anyone else to tolerate this pain, so you are Kshatriya. And then the question was solved, that okay, he has the quality of Kshatriya, so they can tolerate, but they can mostly not tolerate if their ego is hurt. That's Kshatriya, means he has some ego. So, but if he is the one who needs to endure pain for the sake of others, and this is giving him it's protecting his identity as a powerful Kshatriya, then he can tolerate anything. Yes, so this is the important thing to understand in this verse, that there's a difference between the Raja guna and Sattva guna. We see Chada Bharat. He has a much easier life because he doesn't depend on external circumstances, and even if he's abused and mistreated, he doesn't mind because he's so elevated. So that's actually the life, if you have that kind of life, then you can really be peaceful and happy. And that's why the Vedic scriptures want to, they want to lift us up to this, at least Sattva guna, and then later to Shuddha Sattva. And it's good for us to understand where we are, what kind of gunas we have active within us. Is it Sattva guna, or is it Raja guna, or is it Tamo guna? And we know in Bhagavad Gita it's not just one, but these modes are constantly fighting with each other, and one mode is always dominating. And that means we are also always influenced by all the three modes. But the question is, which one is the best? Like in a football league, you have different teams, and there's many games, and the one who wins the most games is on top. So which guna is on top in our life? All of them are there, but which one is on top? No, there's always a game between some gunas, but which one wins the most? And of course our goal in life should be that Sattva guna is number one, that they win the championship at the end of life. And for this we need to, in order to develop, because now we might be, I know for myself when I came to the temple, I was definitely much more in tamas and Rajagun, still am, but much more than today. So, but how was it possible for me to develop Sattva? By the mercy of sadhana bhakti, which was given by Srila Prabhupada. So that's the process for us to make progress. And we know, especially in Kali Yuga, it's all focused on Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Katiranyata. That in Kali Yuga, the chanting of the holy name, Krishna is the anchor of Shuddha Sattva. No? Whenever we focus on him, then we get pulled towards that Shuddha Sattva state, and meaning he pulls us out from tamas, rajas towards Sattva guna, and then eventually Shuddha Sattva. So that is a very sublime and simple method, but of course in order to chant properly there are so many things we have to introduce in our lives, and Srila Prabhupada is clearly saying we shouldn't be so foolish to think that it will just happen by automatically, just by taking initiation or whatever. But we have to follow the process, and it's a gradual thing. And the better we follow, the better we will move forward. And we have to be responsible. We have to do our part. We have to endeavor, and then we can perfect our lives more and more. And every day is a new chance to move in this direction. And it's not yesterday or tomorrow where we have to worry about, but now. Now we can do something. And so that's maybe something to think about, that in order to come to Sattva Gun, we have to now act, now do the right thing, and then we can live happily in Krishna consciousness. So thank you for your attention. Do you have any comments or questions?
Просто я хотел бы сказать, что Господь есть миллиарды вселенных. И Господь настолько велик, что Он полностью все контролирует, и все это все.
There are billions of universes, and Krishna controls everything.
Да, и поначалу, допустим, когда сюда появляются души в телах, то Господь их ведет сперва, как по какой-то программе.
And when jivas come to this material world, Krishna leads them according to some program. I don't know, some plan.
Душа, получается как учебка. Допустим, там 700 тысяч жизней, как учебка. Ты проходишь, например, ты там проходишь, судьбу определенную, чтобы ты мог набраться опыта.
And jivas, they have to get some experience, and for them it's like many lifetimes. It's just learning, studying.
Да, а потом уже, когда уже душа прошла вот эти все горести, что она уже опыта вот так набралась, она попадает в цивилизованные.
And when a jiva, how to say, got already so much experience of suffering here in this material world, then
попадает в цивилизованные.
And then this jiva enters like civilized human society.
Я слышал, что из 400 тысяч форм жизни только 9 тысяч цивилизованных.
Oh, he said he heard. I don't know if it's like he heard that out of 4,000 human forms of life, only 9,000 civilized. Other human forms are not civilized.
Now the question is, to which do I belong?
Sorry? Он говорит вопрос, к кому я принадлежу, к какой группе, он про себя говорит.
Просто тут имеется в виду, что Прабхупада нас вынул из тех жизней и поставил на путь цивилизованности.
And he says that Srila Prabhupada, by his mercy, he helped all those jivas who are maybe not civilized become civilized. Yeah, so.
Так что, в принципе, мы приходим, вот даже здесь много беды всякой там людей. Это просто она приходит, путь определенный.
And all the jivas around who are like eating, sleeping, they are just going through their, they are getting their experience. This is just the path for them to get here one day.
И чем она выше поднимается к цивилизованным, тем она больше набирается опыта, и у нее уже больше свобода выбора.
And if jiva is like, the more jiva is civilized, the more choice it has.
9 тысяч уже полностью свобода выбора. Она уже полностью отвечает.
За все. And but those jivas who are included into this 9,000 civilized people, they have like full choice, like free will. They have free will. Like their free will is.
Yes. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada, he was so powerful that he was able to uplift even most fallen living entities. But I was just thinking also now when you were speaking that Prabhupada said clearly that he couldn't establish his whole mission because he wanted to help the whole world, and not everyone can make progress by sadhana bhakti primarily. And so he wanted to establish some kind of social system, Varnashram Dharma, where even those who don't fit into this direct method, they can indirectly promote themselves to Sattva Guna. And yeah, that you mentioned how the more one moves to Sattva Guna, the more free will. That's the problem, and Prabhupada he gave us a very clear understanding. The ones in Tamas and Rajo Guna, we cannot have hope that they will manage to find a way how to elevate themselves. Like we see the whole world has so many leaders, and sometimes even devotees have faith in them. But we should understand as long as someone is not in Sattva Guna, they are blind and they are very much. So that means Prabhupada wanted that the Brahmanas who have been created by ISKCON, and even Kshatriyas who have the Brahminical nature who are in Sattva Guna, they can then establish the social system which will uplift those in Tamas and Rajas Guna. We are all still in Tamas and Rajas, but some they are really mostly in that modes, whereas at least we who practice, we cultivate Sattva Guna by rising early, taking foodstuffs which are in the modes of Sattva, by being in harmony. So it's up to us to do that. So that's very nice. Prabhupada gave us such an opportunity to serve in this lifetime by helping him, by assisting him, and yeah, we can be very enthusiastic to do something and not become enthusiastic about again enjoying Raja Guna and Tamo Guna. Okay, Mataji, maybe you want to say something then? Yeah.
I think no.
Okay. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai, Nitai Gaura Premanande,
His grace Damodar Prasad
Hare Krishna, Vancha Kalpatam Vishya Kripasinve Jatadanam Bhagavate Vaishnava Namo. It's nice, no? Maharaj was giving us so much inspiration about this Varnashram Dharma, living of the land.
А Прабхупада всегда приходит с миссией почитания. Каждый вселенной.
Кстати, интересно. Не знаю. Вполне вероятно. Но это точно, что Шрила Прабхупада проповедует в разных вселенных. Now we have to go to the kitchen.
I don't think so. Still, Krishna cooked.
Oh, he cooked.
She was there, but I couldn't really ask. She was doing something else.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. Так, у меня вот эта водичка.
Чего?
Ну, Шрила Прабхупада говорит, что тот, кто моет алтарь, но не отлично от алтаря. Вот вы убираете, очень классно. Ну серьезно, вот очень хороший подход. Вы все отодвигаете, моете. Да, спасибо большое. Потому что иногда смотришь, как даже на алтаре иногда я вижу, как хуже это делают, чем вы.
Ну, в любом случае, все.
Да.
Я на вас смотрю, на пожаре, я так никуда не касался, то это великое дело.
А вот Господь смотрит на вас и счастлив, смотрит, как вы хорошо для Него моете полы. Спасибо большое.
Великое дело, конечно.